My name is Barbara Grant. I'm the First Nations Community Development Officer with CBCity. I'm a proud Gurindji Pita Jawoyn woman living and working here on Darug country. Since moving to Darug country, I've since developed a connection with this country and appreciate the dedication and hard work from the Darug people and ancestors for their continued connection and culture of this beautiful nation. I hear a lot of questions around why do we need to do a welcome to country or an acknowledgement of country. As part of Aboriginal culture, Aboriginal people ourselves acknowledge the ancestors for the lands on which they travel through. This is to let the ancestors know what we are doing here and to ask for safe passage. We wouldn't go to another country overseas without finding out about their culture, customs, language, etc., ensuring that we are being culturally appropriate and respectful when visiting another country. So it's only right that we do the same here in this beautiful country. By acknowledging the ancestors of the country, we show respect to the traditional custodians who have lived here and cared for this country for thousands of generations before us. There are many different Aboriginal nations within Australia, with many different dialects, cultural practices and resources depending on what their nation's land provides for them. It is important that we take on this responsibility to find out wherever we go about the culture, people and languages of that land and show our respect to that land. As I am not traditionally from Darug country, I can do an acknowledgement of country. However, anyone, including yourselves, can conduct an acknowledgement of country wherever you go in Australia. To do this respectfully and authentically, you just need to find out what traditional country you are on and have a think about your connection to that land. I would like to acknowledge that we are on Darug country and acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, water and skies. I would also like to acknowledge the Darug elders past and present for passing on their cultural knowledge for many generations. I would also like to acknowledge any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here also.
Hi, I'm James, local resident of Canterbury-Bankstown.
And I'm Anna, Community Development Worker in Canterbury-Bankstown.
Canterbury-Bankstown is rich in diversity, from the languages spoken, countries of birth, journeys to CBCity, along with the various identities, abilities, faiths practiced, achievements and multi-generations.
Together, we'll be interviewing a range of community members from Canterbury-Bankstown. We'll be amplifying diverse voices from across the CBCity to give you an insight into other cultures. Together, we're working to create a great CBCity where we all belong, feel welcome, safe and embrace our differences. This is Voices of CBCity. Safa Al-bekaa is a 20-year-old Iraqi-Australian artist, volunteer and occupational therapy student based in Bankstown. Safa made her debut in the local art scene in 2023 with her multimodal illustrations entitled Hexdet. In that same year, she began her business Azraq Artworks. In 2024, Safa expanded her work into writing and performing arts, working with youth arts organisation Out Loud in their audio tour Stories From Here, and performing at youth-centred events. Safa has been volunteering since 2023 with Y Collab in Fairfield City, and her goal is to continue empowering youth to have third places to understand and unpack their identities in a safe space. Welcome, Safa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome.
Super excited to be here.
So I don't know where we start with you because you are a very busy person.
As I've been told by a lot of people,
Yeah.
that I'm extremely busy, yes, but there's a lot to unpack.
There is, yeah. So maybe we can start with Stories From Here, which is a project that's part of the Sydney Festival 2025.
Yes, it was. Yeah. That project is an immersive walking audio tour that I did with Out Loud with a bunch of other young artists like me. We did that project last year with Kavita Bedford, who is an established author in the area in Sydney. And basically what she did was she facilitated a bunch of workshops in which I think it was I'd say 12 of us worked on our writing skills And we worked on kind of metaphors, how to, express our feelings and thoughts in ways that are a bit more unconventional, using some of Kavita's writing techniques. And essentially, you get to walk around to different places, listen to the stories, and it's almost like it's hidden in a sense, but kind of nowadays not too much, since it was nominated for a podcast award, first of all, whoop, whoop. And it was in Sydney Festival, and that was like a huge deal. Especially we had Her Excellency there, we had some of the festival directors there, and that was a pretty big deal considering that they don't really have the time to come and see every single thing. So the fact that they took the time out of their day to listen to our stories was a huge deal, and that was a really big stepping stone in my arts career thus far, is essentially working with Out Loud, and especially on that project.
Yeah. Great. And I like the place you chose, Bankstown Central.
Yeah, I love Bankstown Central. It's a weird place, but that's the best part about it, is how weird it is, and the fact that so many strange things have gone down there. I recall last year a fire was there. A fire had happened in the food court, and no one really cared. Everyone moved on with their day.
Wow.
Yeah, just that one. Not the fruit market, but specifically the food court. There was a fire there apparently. The alarms went off, and no one really cared. And that's what I love about Bankstown. Is it's a very chill place, as contrary to popular belief, and it's just, I don't know how to explain it. I feel like most shopping centers are not as strange as Bankstown Central is in specific. And that's why I wrote about it, because I wanted to show people the milestones that have occurred there in my life, like getting my first job and stuff like that. And the other experiences I've had with people treating it like it's a really dangerous place, even though it's just like another place for commerce. I think mainly because of the fact that it was surrounded by different cultures compared to other shopping centers that maybe didn't have that advantage. And I think people started to view that as kind of it's like a double-edged sword. It's like a lot of Arab, Viet, Chinese people, but that's also the reason people didn't want to go, is that they don't understand the people there and they feel like it's a very hostile place. But I think the new upgrades, they're for the best. They make the shopping center a lot easier to use, but I think symbolically, it always will be like 2009 really tacky tile designs, and that's what I love the most. Those really tacky tile designs, like Franklin's has been gone for a hot minute, but I still think about Franklin's.
The nostalgia
it's still there. I still rip Franklin's. I don't know how long it's been there, when it got removed, but yeah. I think sometimes I feel like a foreigner, and that's coming from me who's been here for most of my childhood. Yeah.
So, Safa, you're obviously a entertaining storyteller. But you also dabble in different art forms.
I do, yes.
Yeah. So you started the business, like you said, Azrak Artwork. So what's that about?
Okay. Initially, the business started out as kind of, with last year, it was mainly just a name for me to operate under, where I can do random gigs and then not have to worry about the whole my tax situation, because that would stress me out. Now it's been figured out, but now I want to shift it to more of I really love drawing. On my Instagram, my first two projects that you mentioned before, Anna, Hextet, those two were traditional pieces. I love using pencil a lot. I feel like I have control over a pencil more than I do say painting. So when it came to what I would use Ezrek artworks for, I came to the conclusion kind of this year and late last year that I wanted to use it for portraits and drawing portraits of my friends. Right now I've been doing them a little bit marked down prices, some for free depending on who it is who's asking me for it. But I mainly want to do it for portraits because I think people like photos of themselves, and they like it when they're done in a professional way, like say photography. But I think a lot of people want to kind of come back to traditional ways of doing it, like paintings and drawings. So that's kind of what I want more of my business to gear towards to, and I've been working on that behind the scenes a little bit, shifting my current social medias to be my personal art ones, and then one for a more professional, if someone's trying to look at my portfolio, that kind of stuff. That's kind of one piece of a whole puzzle of work that I've been kind of managing, because as we mentioned before, I am quite a busy bee. I like to do a lot of things at the same time. Yeah.
But I'm interested in the illustrations, Hextet. Can you tell me a bit about that and some of the thinking behind the Hextet?
Yeah. Oh, God. Okay. So where do I start with this? This project, I started it in my gap year in 2023. Initially, I had been going to Macquarie Uni for speech and hearing science, which was a pathway to like audiology or speech pathology. This was early in my decision making because I didn't quite know what I wanted to pursue yet, and I think that plays into why a lot of people have a lot of debt is they decide on a degree when they are fresh out of high school and they don't really know what they want to do, and then they keep bouncing around different things to try and figure out what it is they want to do with their lives for a better portion of their life. I similarly felt the pressure at the wee age of like 18, 19, and I had been looking at the prices of the degrees, and a lot of them don't tell you up front on their on different uni websites. They don't tell you up front how much their degrees cost. So you have to do a lot of math to figure it out on your own. And that in itself is a stressful kind of venture. So when I would try and figure out how much they costed, for example, like my current degree, I'm estimating is 50,000. I couldn't tell you if it's 50,000 until I see my subjects come up in my account, and then I can see the price of them. They range greatly. So I had this really big stress about if I was going to be able to afford my degree, if my friends could afford their degrees, how can we help each other? And then at this point in 2023, I think the indexation had gone up by 7%, which is a crazy amount. And when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, the world is burning. The world is crashing in on me. And I felt so stressed out that I wanted to depict it in a way that I feel like most people, like how most students would sit down and check their account balance, which is in the dark on their laptop in their musty hoodies, and they're just like really confused looking. And that's essentially where I went with the creative vision of the project. I started out in my room in the dark with my camera in the corner, and I took photos of me looking distraught, and it was a hit. People love the drawings. The drawings themselves, initially they were on a small scale, so they were like A4 paper, like your standard book like paper. And then I won an entry into an art exhibition by Palava, who they are an art collective for women and non-binary artists. And I was like, well, I can't give them an A4 piece of paper. I need to give them something a bigger scale. So I doubled it in size, and I got to work drawing while I was working as an elf to fund my career. Yeah, I was
like Santa's elf.
Yes, Santa's elf. I was working as Santa's elf for a few weeks, and then I got a lung infection, and then I crashed out, and I was sick, working on my business cards and my stickers. Really a testament to how hardworking I am. But I was working as an elf to fund it, to buy the stickers and the business cards. And surely a few months, 2 months I think had gone by, and I had finished the works, and I was better just in time for the show. I put them up, and I sat in my anxiety at the show, and I was like, I don't know who to talk to, so I didn't really talk to anybody. I got really scared. But yeah, that was my first experience with that. The piece itself, I think a lot of people my age, even now more people I meet, really love the work when they see it on my page, because it speaks to them. It speaks to a lot of us in that I think, even when it comes to things like placement poverty, no one being able to progress in their degree without the money that they need. A lot of people end up, having to decide if they want to pay bills or, go to their placement. Do they need to pay for gas, or are they going to, I don't know, walk to placement somehow, walk to a hospital? God knows how they're going to do it. I had a lot of concerns about it, so I just wanted to put my frustrations out onto paper or cardstock and show it to people and see what they thought of it. And it resonated with a lot of people my age and older, because it doesn't just impact people in their 20s. It impacts people no matter what age you decide to go and get a degree. It can impact people who are in their 50s who want to become OTs or speech pathologists. It can impact people who are super young who got out of school early, people who were 16 who got into uni early, and now they're burdened with a fear of, can I afford this when I'm older? This doesn't seem realistic for anybody. So that was my first work, and that kind of shaped what niche I wanted to go into with my personal kind of more expressive works, apart from the commissions, which was more of an activist commentary route, and I've been like kind of shaping that with every single discipline that I go into. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you see various art forms and your exploration of them going into political, continuing to go into political themes and...
Yeah. I think the way I like to put it to people is like I just like to complain in a more artsy way. Yeah, because then it's taken, people like to take it more seriously, and they're like, oh, that's a little bit more
very abstract.
Very abstract. Yeah, they look at it, they're like, oh, that's like, what does that represent? And it's like, yeah, what color is that? Why she use that color and stuff like that. Yeah, I think it helps ignite more of a discussion, or it serves as a reminder for some people. It doesn't always have to be like bam in your face, like, oh my god, everyone's broke. Sometimes I'm just like, look at the pretty colors. Also, look at the fact that I'm scared about not affording dinner, like that kind of stuff. I like to bring it up very subtly in conversations, but I struggle to do that a lot. Yeah.
How does art, does art like help shape your identity? So is it a way, like it's a way of you expressing yourself?
Oh my god, yeah. Since I could pick up a pencil, I think, when I was 5, I've been doing it. Like, that's the only way that I know how to express myself. Apart from, like, going to, like, see a therapist, I will just draw or write. Or nowadays, I will see if I can play something weird on the piano and see if something comes out of it. I will choreograph something. I will film something. I'll take a photo of something. That's always been the main way that I have sought to express myself, because it feels right to me. It feels like some people, I guess, like some people get frustrated and they go maybe to the gym and they work out to like let out their frustration, or they, like, I know some people who go boxing and stuff like that or whatever, or go rock climbing. For me, it's always been in the art realm. I don't use sports. I feel like I should use more physical activity, but I don't. But yeah, like I have definitely, since I was like very, very young, art has always been the main way that I've expressed my desires, my hatred, my needs, what I want in life, my dreams. Yeah, definitely. And it all started when I was like 5, and I was in kindergarten, and I really wanted my teacher to put up my drawing on like this like a, what is it, like a cotton, kind of like a cardboard thing that you can put things up on. I don't remember what it's called. The word is escaping me. But I really wanted her attention, and I really wanted to get complimented. So clearly I had a problem since I was younger. But yeah, I really wanted her to compliment me on my work. So I made a work about like my family and I going kiting, like flying kites. We've never flown kites before. I just watched a lot of Disney Channel. And I was like, flying kites, we should do that. And I drew like 5 pieces about flying kites. I really wanted to fly a kite, even though I've never done it before. And I think that's already like, you can see the political elements coming in here of like a nuclear family with a dog flying kites in this green field. What does that mean for society? But as a kid, I just really wanted to get complimented. I saw a lot of validation through my artwork, and I think that's still present now. I think a lot of artists at the end of the day are like that to a certain extent. Yeah, I really just wanted people to see me, and that was how I did it, through art. And I think now I've become quite successful in that. The local community is seeing me and praising me, which I have to get used to, and are praising me for talking about issues that are important to everyone here, or, you know, showing that we are a really lovely community despite what others might think. Yeah, so art has been my rock since I was very, very young. Yeah. And
is art also a way of you finding a sense of community, or your community, or
Oh god, yeah, definitely. I think since like a lot of people my age have begun to give up on art, and this is something that we've chatted about before, is like I want people to re-engage with art in a way that they used to when they were younger, and they had no worries at that time about feeding people or having to make a salary. And I think also, like, when it comes to community, a lot of people might not want to put in the work to do the art, and that's respectable. Like, some people don't have the time or the resources to make the work. I think part of me finds that it's a responsibility to make this piece and to find people to engage with it, so that we can create a community through that. Through my volunteering, it's been the same thing. We find artists who are working really hard, and from there, we create a community around them to show them that they have support and that they can keep going up in, like, say, social mobility, or within more opportunities that are bigger than, say, like the local government. Maybe they find other companies that are really supportive of their work, like record labels or whatever it is. art is really important for communities because we don't really talk to each other outside of art making or commenting on certain pieces or going to like the museum, things like that. When I was in school, the main way I connected through my friends was through art, talking about music, talking about TV shows that we liked, even talking about like dumb memes that we found really funny. Like I still do that with my friends very frequently as a 20-year-old. Like I have not grown up. Like I don't think I'm going to grow up until I'm in like my 60s. Like genuinely I'm going to talk about this until like I'm really middle aged. Like talking about really like memes and stuff like that. As much as people don't like to think they're a form of art, in a way they are. They show a part of ourselves. They comment on something. Like I can't even think of a meme off the top of my head right now. But like I feel like most memes that I've discussed with my friends have led into another conversation about whether it's colonialism, classism, ageism, sexism, any kind of bigotry. I find that art is the most important way to do it. So whether it's through really casual consumption like social media or through really intentional ways like going on an excursion to an art museum when you're 16 in like year 10, or through volunteer like kind of made events like what I do. Art is like really, really important to bring different people from different communities together so that we can all remain together and we don't become too individualist in our ways, because I feel like that will result in some pretty bad consequences for all of us. Yeah.
And also like thinking about community and your volunteering, for example, with Y Collab.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so I joined Y Collab. They've been around for a hot minute. They've been around, I think, since 2017 or 2018. And they're very much focused on nowadays, our name is the Youth Collab, but we don't just collaborate with other people who are young people, because I feel like that's a very broad or like very reductive actually like term, because I feel like it's not just young people who need help but also older individuals who need help. Everyone, like we should all help each other. That's kind of the core philosophy with us. And essentially what we do is we provide opportunities for young people. We collaborate with other young people. We make circumstances better for young people through different projects that are, whether it's like university researchers who reach out to us, or just another non-profit organization who comes to us with an idea for an event. We essentially, our goal is to serve young people. We're for young people, by young people. And recently, we've been working on kind of our branding, how we want to appeal to people, and that's where I've come in quite a lot. Since 2023, the rebrand started in 2021, so I was still in high school at this point. I hadn't quite crossed paths yet. So 2 years later, in around, I think it was a week after my 19th birthday, most people, I don't know, go to the club. I was like, let me volunteer. I need to fatten up my resume a little bit. And so we came up with kind of how we were going to rebrand ourselves, and I assisted quite greatly in that. We're much more playful with our like aesthetics, very scrapbooky, fun, artsy vibes, very, very chill. And I've helped out with a lot of, say, like videos and stuff like that, social media promotions, event liaison. I help out essentially making sure that everyone's happy, everyone's safe, everyone's all good. If there's someone outside the door that's trying to get in and they're not on the list, I make sure that they do not come in. Essentially just ensuring that everyone is safe, because right now our goal is to work with a lot of young queer people, and we've been very successful in that, me included. I have been given opportunities as a young queer person as a result of Y Collab. And yeah, essentially I help out in the day-to-day stuff. Our safe space, which runs every first and third Sunday of each month, we essentially have like a very chill, sit down. We make stuff, we craft, we have a lot of beads. We make lots of bracelets because we have too many beads now. And you can make clay, you can just chat with your friends, and it's all in a safe space that you do not have to pay a cent for, unless you need to take public transport, of course. Even then, that could sometimes be covered by us. We just want to make things that that used to be very unattainable, like just hanging out in a regular spot, much more regular for people, and not something that's like crazy. Like being able to hang out at a cafe has become kind of like expensive for people. People can't make that expense of like a $5 coffee every week if that's what they want to do, or every fortnight, because that builds up over time. And you know, there's a lot of older individuals who have questioned people's financial choices, i.e. spending a coffee. I've seen a lot of interviews on the internet of people within maybe their 70s who say, why are you buying yourself breakfast? Just make it at home. It's not the act of buying the breakfast. It's more of the fact that I'm having that breakfast with someone that's more important to me. It's not the fact that I'm having an avocado toast that's the big deal to me. It's the fact that I'm having it with someone else and we're talking about what's happened in our lives. That's the more important thing. And we don't have those, we mentioned third spaces, places that aren't the home or work or school, places that are like the library, where you can just sit down, have a chat, have a coffee, play some games, maybe, relax, have some downtime. So what we've been trying to do recently in the past few years is create a third space for young queer people specifically, because despite the fact that there is a lot of, I guess you could say that there's a big queer community within the inner west and within northern Sydney, they might not be as open to those parts of yourself as just mainly the queer part. And that's where the intersectionality comes in, and people they tend to forget that part. So we've been trying to address that through the queer safe space that we hold. And it's been rather successful. It's really just a place for me to make friends and help other people make friends. And that is, I think, the biggest positive impact that the queer safe space has had for people. Yeah.
A lot of what you strive for every day is this concept of building a third space. For people that aren't aware of what that is, could you describe to us what a third space is?
Yeah, so a third space in essence is pretty much somewhere that's not work/school or your home. It's another place that you can exist in without typically having to spend much money. And it's somewhere that you can go for social reasons. You can go there for self-betterment. You can go there just to, you can go there to socialize, stuff like that. And recently, it's gone from being like the park. The park doesn't have internet for some people. Some people need the internet to do things. So where do people go? Typically the library. Then the library is somewhere you have to be quiet, so you can't really have a download conversation unless you want to go, like for example here in Bankstown, a library, there's the cafe, but you would have to spend money at the cafe. So then people get unattracted from that. So where do they go next? The shopping center. Typically the shopping center has become associated with teenagers who are rambunctious, and I feel like sometimes I get mistaken for a teenager. It doesn't happen too often anymore, thankfully. I don't think I have that juvenile look in me anymore, but for teenagers, they don't have anywhere to go, and it's impacted them the most. So with third spaces that are not work or school for them, or their house, where else do they have to go? And that's become a very big conversation in, I'd say, like the past 5 years since COVID has kind of, I wouldn't say died down or anything, but it's become better managed. And yeah, third spaces, for me now, what essentially that is somewhere where I can go free of charge and I can just sit down and actually enjoy myself and do something fun to build more connections to other people, to help other people feel included in a community. It's essentially supposed to build a community. That's what a third space's purpose is, to build a community and for people to not be expected to engage in transactions and to be put into a transaction, such as buying clothes from a shop because you had nothing else to do.
So why the jump? Why is there so is the second space, is there a definition for that too, or is there a subtext behind trying to isolate the third space from the first space? So that's
a really good question, and honestly I don't know if I have too much of an answer to it as to why there isn't a second space, because even I've thought about it. I'm like, so there's a third space but there's no second space. And my assumption could be that the second space, that the way that I think of it is like the first space is your house, then the second space is like work or home typically. But I think it's mainly because like people are so used to being at work or like at school that even then, like in high school, I couldn't really build much of a community because you're constantly changing classes. And I think Zoe mentioned this in her episode where like you're constantly changing classes and you're not ever with the same group of people. So it's really hard to build a community. But in primary school, it's a lot easier because everyone's so involved within your education at that time and the experiences that you have, such as going like the school carnival and stuff like that. As much as I wish it was more safe and that I could just go to a friend's house without a second thought, I've got to get my parents to meet their parents to make sure that we're not with strange people. But then that feels like I'm commenting on my friend's character and it feels very messy. But I think we should probably strive to build second spaces as well, like especially if we're trying to think about what the second space is it going to be like work and education? Are we trying to build spaces there so that people can feel like they should stay there more? Because then what does that say about us? Are we capitalists then? Because it feels like we're trying to get people to stay at work more. But yeah, that's a really good question that I also have not considered. I think most people are very sick of schoolwork and they want to find somewhere where they have a lot of downtime, which is why I've focused quite a lot on like a third space. But you know what? That's something we should also pencil down and consider as well.
Like I was thinking about like community organisations and, for example, local governments and their place in helping build, let's say the term third places and safe spaces. But I also liked your point about people being proactive in creating those third spaces for themselves as well, because you know, community orgs or local governments don't necessarily have their finger on the pulse the whole time. You know, things are happening out there and it's hard to work out what's happening and who's involved and, you know, where do we go with this. It's often kind of not backtracking, but trying to keep up with what's happening and what trends are, what's going on. So, I mean, I do think it's important to be proactive as a community member and say, we need this for ourselves, or this is important to us, and trying to make that happen.
A lot of it comes from like organization within the community. Like I think the main problem that a lot of people have is like analysis paralysis, where they look at a situation and they're dissatisfied with it, but they don't know how to go forward in fixing it. And that was me for a very long time, especially when I was younger. I had a lot of frustrations about different things that didn't come to fruition until I was like on my gap year and I had nothing to do, and I was like, I don't like this problem, I want to fix it. How do I fix it though? I'm like stuck at home and I don't know anybody, which is why I joined Y Collab. And it's not even just Y Collab. There are tons of like youth organizations, I'm sure if you Google them, that can help you, or even community organizations, not just youth, that can help you like troubleshoot these problems. At the end of the day, a lot of it is organization enacting it. And it's a lovely flowchart of different connections, and then everyone knows everyone, and then you help each other out. At the end of the day, a lot of it is you just have to do it, and you have to go through kind of the resistance that you might initially get, because I think once people make a mistake in something, or they find that there's a road bump in an issue, for example, the third spaces and the third places that we've been talking about, the third places and safe spaces. It takes a long time to plan these kinds of things. You have to pitch to a lot of people, but it's worth it when you see how happy and how stress-free the community looks when they don't need to spend money on something just to exist in a place. It is so much more gratifying, and it's much more, it helps remind me of why I do certain like these kinds of things, why I volunteer and I do it free of charge. It's because everyone's really happy, and I become happy as a result. I've gotten like a lot of really lovely memories from volunteering that I don't think I could have gotten if I had still worked at say like Target, because that's where I used to work. Like if I had continued to work retail, I don't think I would have gotten all these opportunities and met all these really lovely people. So I would say like the biggest thing when it comes to creating a third space or second space in James's case, and like in a safe space, is to just plan it and then do it to the best of your ability, even if you make a lot of mistakes along the way, because that's how you'll learn.
That's right. You were mentioning then that your work in the community gives you a sense of purpose, which is a very noble thing. Did it give you a sense of belonging within Bankstown as well?
Oh my God, it definitely did. I did a lot of volunteering opportunities with Out Loud, and one of the biggest ones that gave me a sense of belonging was when we did the Respect Showcase, which is when they have Out Loud has, let me just give people some clarity. Out Loud has a few projects with young people, like really young kids who go to school in the area, and Respect is essentially for young boys who they learn about respecting women, domestic violence, being connected with each other, being friends, and respecting one another. And they also have, I believe, it's Unity, which is their program for the young girls. Self-empowerment, confidence, stuff like that, battling sexism and whatnot. And I worked on being a stagehand. I volunteered as a stagehand for the showcase last year, which is essentially them showing off all the different songs that they did with young kids. And I saw how many people in the community showed up for that, and that made me feel so happy. I actually I wanted to cry at some point because I was so happy that these kids were learning from such great facilitators, and that they were confident enough to go up on stage, because there are people photographing them and I think probably recording them too. And they had the confidence to go up there and, sing and rap and sing their lyrics with confidence. And it was so elating to watch, especially as somebody who I didn't get those opportunities when I was younger. And I felt even more connected because I knew that all of us were connected by the same kind of ideology of being connected to each other and being respectful and loving each other and being there for each other. And that when I was grabbing the microphones, because it was a busy night, I was grabbing microphones, marking things off, making sure we'd gotten them done. I was just so happy for these kids that they could come off stage knowing that they did a really great project. That was something that really, really connected me to the community. And with that, we did do Sydney Festival, which was a really big deal. That also further connected me to the community, because people from outside the area got to see how amazing the youth are of Bankstown, or those who frequent Bankstown are, how great we are, how creative we are, how insightful and thoughtful we are. And the fact that I could show not just them, but also the elders of the community, because a lot of it was older individuals, that there were so many young people who cared a lot about this place, that further connected me to Bankstown. And seeing all of the all the ethnic people in the area, all of the refugees, the immigrants, working and stuff, that really connects me. Even though we're not physically talking to each other, there's just if you know, and I just knew with them, we just knew that this is a great thing, and that it's a really lovely area that has a lot to offer. I would say those two projects really made me feel like I belonged in the area.
So you grew up in the area, and you went to school in this area.
Yes.
And just in the last couple of years, you've really gone into community volunteering, and it sounds like you're coming into the space of becoming an advocate for...
Sounds like it. Yeah. That's definitely how I'd put it. One could say activist or advocate. Yeah, definitely coming into those spaces. It's scary because there's a lot of people who are far more experienced than me in this, but I think it's for a while there hasn't been too many young people my age. I think there have been kids who have, I think Zoe also mentioned this in her episode, that she had kids working on a charter and like a kids parliament, which is cute to me. Oh gosh, I love kids.
Shout out Zoe.
Yeah, shout out Zoe. Oh gosh, our kids are adorable. And working in the advocacy space is something quite new for me actually, because I didn't do it too much. Initially, it was just me complaining and being artsy about it, right? Being I hate this. Hate it with me in a cool way, and everyone's yeah, I hate it too. Can you go fix it though? Can you fix this issue? And I was yeah, sure, I'll go fix this problem. And then very slowly, I didn't realize I was going into the advocacy space, but suddenly I found myself in it when Zoe did ask me to help work on the charter, and I was oh, I'm here now. People value my opinion. I need to do something about this. And so coming into this, I think I'm actually quite good at it. I'm quite a natural at it. I think I already know. I've seen so much of this area. I've been here since I was 8 or 7. I've grown up here. I think the fact that I've done it in now writing, podcasting, and through visual forms. I think now I've kind of first found my niche, which is to look more into art about Bankstown, and to continue to show people like how beautiful of a place it is for the outsiders who don't understand it, and to show the people who have lived here for a very long time to appreciate what they have, and that Bankstown is constantly improving. Aren't they fixing like the gutters here or something? They're fixing the water. Like that's already a great sign. They're fixing the water system here. Like stuff like that. I think I want to not just show people the problems, but show people the really lovely aspects of Bankstown that constantly are getting better. Because I think at some point I feel like I'm going to be beating a dead horse if I'm just talking about why Bankstown is sucky and why I need it to be fixed. Because I think I have to step back and remind myself of how much privilege I have being in this position, because I worked to get to this point. It's not a right that I have. I had to spend a lot of hours that were unpaid getting to this point, and I'm not going to lose my voice as quickly just because I've spent so long. I don't want to feel like I'm entitled to it. So yeah, like working with the council and working with different youth organizations who are in the area, who serve the area, I want to continue to be very mature in how I look at things and continue to prioritize simply just people who will come after me, because I want them to pass on and to make something even better than what I have made. Yeah, that's definitely my goal with my advocacy.
Yeah, those are very noble goals.
Thanks.
And like while you mentioned you're not sure if you're finding your way, you've certainly made quite a bit of progress so far, so that's a good sign.
I think within just 2 years, that's quite that's a short amount of time. 2 years is not that much, but I think I'm quite proud of myself in that I've done that much, and I'm very excited for the younger people who are going to come after me, and that I will be able to guide them. I think that's what I'm most excited for, to pass the torch on to someone else.
And it's funny you mentioned that about being an advocate, because being an advocate as a young person is never easy, because it can feel like no one really wants to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah, tell me about it.
There's more wiser people out there with more life experience. But let's get some of your insights. So you are the professional here. How do you think we can better address intersectionality when it comes to building social cohesion within Bankstown? So you can give your own personal judgment about how we should do this.
Okay. I think like with intersectionality, you've got to find people who are at the intersections. So say you find someone like me who's young, queer, and identifies as a woman. Then you find someone who's, say, like working refugee who's also a woman, and you connect those two people. A lot of it's about, I find, networking. It's not necessarily about just like talking and being like, this thing sucks. Like, you need to figure out what the problem is, pencil it, and then pass that on to the next person so that they can, someone who can action it, which is kind of the thing that I find is the biggest deal. You need to do things. As much as I think a lot of us want to plan things, you got to do things. So what I find we'd benefit from the most is finding the people within the local government area who have intersectional identities with multiple components to them, and you connect them with more people, and you get them all engaged in a discussion about what they think they need. Then you fund what they need. You figure out, okay, so for example, this woman needs access to a prayer room in the library, for example. We will get her that. We will fund that and make it appropriate for her to pray in. We need a queer room as well. Perfect. We can put the queer room in a different location, and then this is like a safe space for queer people that they can access easily. They don't have to worry about being loud or rambunctious in a library because the room is closed off, for example. Stuff like that. The biggest thing is doing it. So, like, for example, working on the charter, I was worried that we weren't going to be able to actually do the stuff and action the things. But now I've gotten updates that the charter has been passed on to a myriad of different people who I don't know who they are, which I'm like, perfect, that's a great sign. And then there's supposed to be a conference about the charter. I'm like, that's great. We're getting more people talking about it. That's precisely what needs to be done. So then you find the people who have the money. Unfortunately, everything comes back to money. But yeah.
Hex debt.
Oh God. Yeah, you find the people who can fund it, and then people can access it and enjoy it without it having to come out of their money directly, like their bank accounts directly. It's probably going to come out of taxes, but taxes are inevitable. And yeah, that's like how I would address the social cohesion. You kind of have to find the people who can make something cohesive, because that's what it is. You're just trying to make one land of like one area cohesive. You're trying to make it uniform, but not in the sense that you want everyone to look the same. It's that you want everyone to have similar ideals and that you want everyone to be connected. So essentially you just need to get people to talk to one another. And even then, a lot of the issues I find within like the local area come back to communication. A lot of people misunderstand each other. A lot of people don't get each other because maybe different faiths or cultures. If you get them in like a room where they can talk and be safe about it, and that they can give their genuine opinion, you can get a lot of really great results out of that, as we've seen with like the charter and stuff like that. If you just allow people the space to talk, they can give you very insightful opinions. So that's how I would address it, through a lot of conversations and a lot of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a process of cultivating as well. So it's not just pass the message, pass it on. It's here's the message, now you do something with it, pass it on. So you're building upon it.
Absolutely.
And for future, well, we're part of Gen Z, which is quite young. Gen Z. What do you think we should do for future generations? So those that are much younger, a little bit younger.
Gen Alpha? How old are they? 2010?
They're a bit younger than us, but the next generation.
Oh, okay, yeah, even younger, yes.
Yeah, so what we should do, like what types of examples should we set for these other generations so they can have a deeper sense of inclusion and cohesion?
Yeah. I think the most important thing is from my perspective, is to not carry on the generational curses that my elders have passed on to us, and to not seek their validation, because if you're seeking their validation, you're essentially acting the same way they did. I think for me to set a good example for them, I feel I have a lot more physical and introspection to do, a lot more of a transformation to undergo within the next few decades, to then pass that on to people much younger than me. I think the most important thing for younger and like even younger than what's generation beta, I think alpha beta
Generation next.
Oh, generation next. We'll just say that instead. Yeah. For them, I think the most important thing for them to understand is to just sit down and communicate with each other, and to be less individualist with how you operate in your daily life. A lot of people, especially now, I think we've picked up after a lot of other Western countries who are much more individualist in their nature, especially coming from a country that thousands of years ago was collectivist, and we, interchangeably had roles. It's best if we return to that, and obviously not in the more primitive way of spearheading a fish, but taking care of each other more. That's a really big value from Arab culture that I've struggled to pick up on myself, and that is helping each other out when you think someone needs it, and not in a condescending way of oh, you don't look like you're doing very well. More of here's a helping hand. Take it if you need it, and if you don't need it, that's okay. Just know I'm here for you. I have struggled so greatly to pick up on that. My sister, who was born in Iraq and she was raised in Jordan for a little bit with mom, she does it flawlessly. She's always giving a helping hand to whoever needs it in the house. I struggle so much with that. I'm very much Australian in that if you need help, you're gonna ask me for it. I don't think you need help because you haven't told me you needed help. And that mindset of, oh, if I don't need help, I can just help myself. No, we can all help each other, because there's really no losing out when you have someone else to help you out. And I think that's really something I want to teach younger people. You can help out people from other cultures who know nothing about you. You don't have to think of it as a transactional thing. It is something inherent within us, and that we should all connect with each other, and that we should all just give each other the helping hand. We're not giving too much by just offering the help initially. If it's a huge thing, I don't know, paying off someone's debt, that's a different case. But I think there's really no harm in just asking for assistance from someone else, and I think most of my peers have struggled with that, and I think me personally, I've realized the problem, and I've now begun to try and troubleshoot it, but it's really hard when my peers are still very individualist, and I have to try and break them out of a trance of, I don't need someone's help, I can just help myself. We can all help each other, and no one loses out on it, and that's the thing that I want to emphasize the most, especially to younger people, because I feel we're going really down a road that I don't want to continue going down, in terms of really bigoted ideologies that will lead people to leaving others behind because they don't think that they fit the quota. And I think that's what I'll say about that because I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, but I agree with you there. I think the social commentary for like young people at the moment is fix it yourself. You know, like look at your elders. They did it for themselves, and then you get this idea where everyone's only living for themselves. They're not actually willing to serve others. Yeah. So I agree with that.
It's tiring.
My advice would have just been erase doom scrolling.
No, seriously, we need to like put a cap on like how much we can scroll on our phones.
Let's stop doom scrolling.
It is because of that damn phone.
Get off the phone.
It's because of that damn phone, unfortunately.
Can I go back to a point you made, Safa, about did you say young people do not seek validation from older people? Is that?
I think
I'm interested in this idea.
I think it's about like the generational trauma that we've all everyone has suffered from it, whether you're older or younger. Like the generational trauma is generational. And I think when it comes to seeking validation from like my elders, say like my grandparents or even my mother, like it's been a constant battle of I want to satisfy them and I don't want them to worry about me, but at the same time I want to be myself. And I think me and other young people that I know were upholding the wrong things, such as the most superficial thing that I can think of is like piercings. When I got my nose pierced, my mom wasn't very happy with it. She was like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that to your body? That is the worst thing you can do. And she wasn't very happy with it. And then I got it done, and then she kind of had to accept it. And she continued to accept it, and now she's still like, she's okay with it now. Would she prefer that I not have it? Probably. I think she would prefer that. And she has ideas of what she thinks is like professional and is appropriate for like a workplace, especially like in healthcare, which is another conversation itself.
Was that a cultural barrier, the piercing?
Oh my God, yeah. Like the idea of piercings and tattoos. Tattoos, I'm an artist. Of course, I want to have some drawings on me, but it's something that not even my older sister, she's born in 1996, so she's on the cusp of like millennial and Gen Z. Even she's like, maybe don't do that. Like my sister's quite traditional, and that's not a bad thing. There can be traditional values that are really, really great to keep. But when I say like, don't seek the validation constantly from your elders, it's more about things that you know are for the best, for the greater good, such as racism. Like a lot of of older people that I know, they are unintentionally quite racist, and you got to tell them, hey, don't say that thing. That's quite rude to say. And then like, oh well, I was raised this way. So then you have to constantly go into back and forth with them. That kind of stuff. That's not seeking validation. Seeking validation with them would just be letting them say the thing and then not talking about it. And that's what I mean by you can't constantly seek validation from the people who kind of also traumatized you a little bit. And I think people take the word trauma and they're like, oh, like car crash kind of trauma. It can be small things. Trauma can like build up over time. And it's like an injury that you get over and over. That's a form of trauma. So when it comes to like generational trauma, it can be anything like queer identities, non-traditional non-binary identities. My parents don't get that. They don't understand any of that kind of stuff. So you kind of have to slowly introduce the idea to them and accept the fact that they're probably going to not be so fond of you when you tell them about it. Or if you get a tattoo, get the tattoo. Like at some point you're going to upset your parents. They're human beings who just happen to have children. They're going to get upset at things that you do because there's a certain way that they want you to be. And it's more than often than not out of this desire for you to be safe. They just want to protect. Most people just want to protect the kids at the end of the day. But you have to let your kids go into the line of fire to then come back stronger. And that was like one of the biggest things I learned from how I like looked at my mom's parenting. Was I think she wanted to protect me a lot because I'm a child. I'm a youngest child. She wants me to be safe, but like working out, you got to rip the muscle fibers to make them come back stronger. It's the same thing with like developing yourself as a person. Sometimes you have to get hurt in order to come out stronger and more resilient. And part of that was me learning to accept that I'm not going to make my parents happy all the time with the decisions I make, but sometimes the choices I make me happy. Like choosing occupational therapy as my degree, my mom initially thought I was going to become a physiotherapist, and then I didn't, and then she was actually quite upset at that. And that surprised me because I thought no matter what, if I went into healthcare, she would be happy. But she really wanted me to go into physio because that was the pathway initially I was going to do. And then I didn't. and she wasn't very happy with it, but I had to accept her resistance and let her be and let her process the fact that I'm not doing the exact same career path as her. So stuff like that. It doesn't have to be big things. Like I said, it can be small distasteful moments that happen in your life that are part of breaking these like generational curses. But then it makes your parents become more flexible, or like your elders become more flexible to you and accept that young people are vastly different to them. Which then inherently that will build the social cohesion when everyone begins to kind of understand each other little by little. Yeah.
That is like one of the biggest issues, like in your early 20s, is where you're starting to become your own person. You're starting to make serious life choices that your parents are sort of like, hang on a second, just come back to childhood. It's safe here.
Yeah.
So I agree with that, and I think it affects a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting you mentioned that. So you're currently in university, right? Studying occupational therapy.
Yep.
Now, I'm in the field of health.
Yes.
Why would you want to do this? So, sorry, that was not the right way to frame it. But, so the question is really, when a lot of people go into healthcare, right, they say, I want to help people.
Yep.
Why do you want to help people?
I don't want to help people because I feel like this comes back to my disdain for individualism. I think we're all becoming far too collectivist. And I think it's very inherent within me to want to help people, and not in like I just got to help people. It's more of like my parents have raised me that way, and that you should help people whenever they need it. And like I mentioned before, I'm still kind of struggling with the offering of help. So the advocacy part made me realize like, wow, people are really like... It's bad here. So I found that going into healthcare would help with that, because occupational therapy, a lot of people don't know what it is. It's a very new field. It's essentially helping people to do what they want to do, need to do, or have to do, right? And I want to help people do what they got to do. I want people to just be able to go into their daily life and do their things, whether they need accommodations for it or they need me to help them completely from scratch again. And I think healthcare in itself, like, I just didn't want to go into something that was inherently capitalistic. But the more that I think about it, everything comes back to pretty awful like roots in society, especially in recent times with the talk of healthcare and who has like stakes in healthcare, who owns a lot of like healthcare systems. My eyes were opened quite a bit, and I've actually begun to rethink how like my involvement in my degree and if I wanted to continue it. But that was because I looked at the very, very top of the system and I was like, oh my God, this is awful. But then I looked at who was at the bottom and I realized it was common folk like me. And I was like, I need to still help these people. Like, even though we can't take down the big bad guys immediately, I can still help you to function in your daily life, and you won't have to worry about paying it off out of your pocket. So going into OT, that choice was mainly motivated by the fact that I couldn't see myself in like business or finance or media. I just couldn't see myself anywhere but being like in a clinic. And I wasn't even like, I've never been more of like, I've never been in clinics very often, but I just felt this inherent need to help people. And I knew that that was the only way I was going to do it, because at the time I didn't know I would be doing this like on the side. Like I wouldn't be doing all this community work on the side, which motivated my decisions. A lot of people would say the salary. I started looking at the salaries after I chose my degree. And then I was like, oh.
You don't go into healthcare for the salary.
No one does, honestly. No. I did look at
And
them.
you shouldn't.
Yeah, you shouldn't. Okay, no. That's not good. But yeah, like I didn't really go into it for the money. I just couldn't help that gnawing feeling of wanting to help people more than I already am. Yeah.
So it sounds more like in line with what you do for your advocacy. It's just your principle. Yeah. The principle of wanting to be a service to others, which is very good. Because
Thanks.
Yes. No, I'm just curious because I'm in the health field as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times the question is, why do you do this? Oh, because I want to help people, but it gets repetitive after a while. Yeah. So it's an important question to ask.
It's like a gnawing feeling sometimes. Not even like I want to help people. It's like if I don't help people, I have no clue what else I'll do with my life. And it's become almost pathological in that I'm like, it's debilitated me at some point. I like would be in bed and I'm like, I feel useless. I need to do something with my life. And I was like, I don't want to go into marketing. That feels like professional lying to me. So I was like, let me find something else that's not media, because I felt worried about making a living out of it. And then I realized healthcare, you can't really make too much of a living out of it in this day and age either. So I was like, let me just find something that won't drive me nuts. And occupational therapy offered just enough variation within the specialties and the overall foundations of how we work as practitioners, that I was like, okay, this seems doable. I won't go nuts doing this. So that was also part of the reason. But I don't tell people that because I feel like that would come off as selfish. But now that you mentioned that people say that they just like want to help a lot, I'm thinking I should just say that instead. I feel like that comes off as a more interesting response. Is just saying the variety was like more interesting for me.
The subtext behind you want to help people is more important than the statement I want to help people.
Definitely.
Because in the end of the day, why do you want to help people? You know, is it an necessary need? Are you doing it for yourself, or are you doing it for others? So,
yeah.
I also just want to pick up on how you were talking about that in relation to your parents and the culture that you were brought up in, and that you feel that is kind of one of the inherent things in kind of Arabic culture.
Yeah.
Are there other parts of like whether it's Arabic culture broadly or from Iraqi culture that you really see that's important to you as a value that you want to continue to
kind of like uphold it?
Yeah.
I think like helping people and offering that hand whenever people need it, that's like the biggest thing that my parents have like preached to me, especially now like as an adult where I still am finding my place. So definitely like giving the helping hand when people need it, that's like the most important thing to me. The other I think important values is like family, which for some people I think they don't value their family too much. When I was younger, I think as a teenager, every teenager's like, oh no, I don't want to, like, I want to be by myself, like I don't want to, you know.
Rebellious.
Yes, very rebellious, you know. That was me. And then I kind of came to my senses at some point, probably during my gap year. A lot of this happened during my gap year. My gap year it opened my eyes quite a bit. It opened my third eye, frankly. I was like, yeah, like seriously, like a lot happened in that year where I realized like, because I was able to take a gap year because I had my family. Like there's no pressure for me to contribute to financially or anything like that. I think the unconditional love that a family offers is like the biggest thing that my parents have preached to me, that my culture overall has preached to me, as well as like resilience. I think people associate the Middle East with like just like a wasteland of bombs and debris, and I think in recent times it's looked like that, which is heartbreaking, and action still has to be taken to ensure that we can rebuild those roots and ensure that people can visit their home countries and go back home and feel safe. That's really important. It's also important to look at the joy that Arab people experience, and that's something that I think my mom wants me to prioritize the most, as well as my dad, like my history and the joy that they experienced while they were there. Because as much as being in an authoritarian regime is horrifying, I can't imagine how they felt at that time. It's also important to realize that they probably had good moments. They found each other in that regime. They found each other during that time working as physiotherapists, and that was something that reminded me, like I just was reminded of like how you can find goodness in like the worst of scenarios, and especially through other people. And I want to continue to connect with people. I can't see myself cutting myself off from people. That's just not how we work. So my parents, if there's the most important things that they've told me are, or shown me really, is community is really, really important. Giving yourself a helping hand, giving others a helping hand within the community, family, and your roots. Like remembering your roots, remembering your history. Lots of kids my age, thankfully, a lot of the Arab kids my age can still speak Arabic, but I don't want people younger than me losing that. And sometimes it's frustrating when I hear kids speaking in English and their parents speak in Arabic. I'm like, come on, you gotta pick up on the vocabulary, kind of speak a little bit, because that was me at some point. And it's heartbreaking to lose those roots, because that was me for a little bit during my adolescence. It was really, really frustrating that I couldn't communicate with my parents. And even now, though my Arabic is better, I still struggle to understand the nuances of like conversation. My mom like wiped my hand like this the other day on the table, and I was like, are you bad at me? Like, why'd you do that? And she was like, no, that's just a playful thing we do. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't know it was a thing. I was like, oh, okay, I'll start doing it from now on. Now I do. I do it with her. And like stuff like that's important. Knowing, like, remembering your roots, and most importantly, celebrating like the joy of your culture, whatever culture you're from. Especially for me, celebrating Iraqi culture and enjoying it and celebrating other Arabs' cultures, because I never did it much when I was a kid, because people didn't really let me do it. And I hope that that's different for like younger kids than me, because, you know, wearing your cultural garments and eating the food, a lot of the times I got judged for it, and people were like, what is that? What are you eating? And then like would have to explain it, and then I get too embarrassed. Or like wearing your cultural garments casually and not for like an event. That is something that I've been trying to do, whether it's like small accessories, like I'm wearing this like Quran verse, like it's a necklace charm that's a Quran verse. Do I know what it says? Hell no. But my mom gave it to me, and I'm gonna wear it because I love my mom. And it's stuff like that, like very small things, like wearing your cultural garments to kind of rebel against this westernization of who we are on the inside, because I don't know when I'll go to Iraq. I don't know the next time that's gonna happen. So I can just prepare for it by constantly being in touch with myself and understanding who I am, you know, reading up on poetry or the news or what's happening back home, and eating the food, because my mom's been teaching me a lot about the cooking, and it's hard, but that's how we connect. And that's kind of like the stuff I value the most, like all of those things. Yeah, a lot of things that I've been working on.
So did you grow up in Iraq or in Sydney?
I grew up in Sydney. My sister and mom, so it started from like during the regime, during the Civil War. My father and mother and Noor, she was my older sister Noor, she was born in 1996. They went to Jordan so that my dad could settle roots in Blacktown, and he stayed there for a little bit, so that meant mum and Noor were in Jordan without electricity or running water for quite a hot minute. They like had buckets. Literally. For like, they were there for a while. And then I think like in the early 2000s or late 1990s, they moved to like the Bankstown area, like I think like Hurstville, and then we moved up to Bankstown a little later after Mohammed, who's my older brother, and I was born. They're very resilient people, so I think I've got that inbuilt within me somewhere, whether it's, you know, like going to high school with a bunch of teenage girls. I think that's my version of escaping the Civil War, because God, it felt like some kind of trauma was inbuilt within me. But yeah, like my parents are very resilient people, so that's what I've picked up from them, definitely. But I was blessed enough to not have been born in that hostile environment, but part of me wonders what could have been different if I was born there and I picked up on a lot of the cultural cues. But you know, it's a learning experience now, and I think that makes my life more refreshing and interesting. Yeah.
Safa, how do you navigate all of this? Because like a lot of what you're saying does resound with me, and that point about not listening to elders, that does resound with me. But how does a person, a young person particularly, navigate through all this? If, let's say, they identify as queer, they are of non-English speaking background, culturally, linguistically diverse. They grew up in southwest Sydney, probably experienced, as you say, like racism at school, into the arts. How does hypothetically a young person navigate all of this, but particularly like find a space to develop that sense of identity? And I am going to say individuality, even though
you're right,
you know, like there's the individuality and there's the individual and the collective, and I can totally understand wanting to belong to a sense of, you know, to community, to different communities. But how do you navigate all that?
How do I specifically navigate all of it?
Please solve all the problems in the world.
Let's see. Let's go through my morning routine. No, I'm kidding. I would say like a part of it is just like it's a very long journey that for me started when I was in like high school, when I was like, roughly like 14. It took me, so now it's taken me a whopping like 7 years to figure out myself. And part of it was first taking off the labels initially. That was the biggest lesson I had to learn, was taking off the labels, because sometimes the labels can be helpful, but they can also be extremely reductive, which is why I don't use them as much as I used to. I only use them in like a professional sense if I have to, or like for like census, for like when the government needs a census. I really don't know, to be honest. I think for me it's like very inherent. Like I wake up, I look at myself in the mirror, and I just accept parts of myself that I don't think I can change. And then I go out and I try to find people who are uncomfortable probably by me, and then ask them, why are you uncomfortable by it? And then try and change their minds about it. And I think with individuality, I'm all for it, don't get me wrong. I think there's a ratio that exists between individuality and like having a collective. Both are very, very important, and you need, like, it's a yin to a yang. Like, you need both of them so that everyone can, so that there's a homeostasis, that there's an equilibrium, that there's an equal balance. But the way that I've navigated it was through a lot of introspection and kind of understanding myself and investigating who I am. And first that started off with the labels. Am I queer? Am I non-binary? Am I this? And then eventually I realized I'm putting too much on this. I need to get rid of it and start fresh, which then that came to the volunteering. The volunteering helped me realize you don't really need to have too many identities or labels attached to yourself to make you feel like you belong somewhere. And I think for someone who's probably like me, who's trying to figure out their life, say you're a person of color, you're in the arts, you have to go into healthcare because your parents want you to, kind of, and you want to change the universe. Just go outside, find somebody, like find a group of people initially to talk about with this, whether it's your like local like youth organization or community organization. Those I like bread and butter. They are perfect places to go to because typically they're designed for stuff like that. They're usually designed for you to go there and just to chill and figure out who you are. For me, that was Y Collab. And then from there, I had conversations with the older queer people there, who were people like in their 20s, in their 30s, because unfortunately we don't have a lot of people who are middle-aged who come. I would love for middle-aged people to come to them. But yeah, older queer people who are like in their 30s would tell me about their experiences at my age, and they would give me a lot of advice, and that was how I navigated it. A lot of them would tell me to not stress about the fact that, you know, I don't date very often. They would tell me to not stress about the fact that I don't think I'm attractive, things like that, because I think if you think about it too much, then it really becomes like horrifying. I had to stop at some point because during high school, that was a period of time where I would overthink so much about who I was, and that was when I saw like a therapist for a lot of my problems, and he told me to just stop putting the labels on it. So I think you just need to take it day by day. Don't look at it as like 10 years in the future, what's going to happen to me. You have to take it day by day, because then things become much less daunting in that regard. But I think it's to each their own. Everybody has their own story with it. For me, it was a lot of self-reflection. I think a lot of people benefit from journaling. That's a really great tool. And talking to community, talking to other people about it who have been in the same boat as you. Because usually they've gotten out of it. They're usually pretty all right. They've got great lives. They are great people to talk to. I think people really underestimate how much is in their local community that they can engage with. A lot of people tend to go online for these kinds of problems. I used to go on Reddit a lot. I was like a Redditor. I used to be like, why am I having this problem? 15 female, and then someone would have the same problem as me, but they're like from a different like culture, so like it's not quite exactly my problem. But I realized I could just go to like a local community center, and bada bing bada boom, someone was there who was exactly like me, like who's just a little older than me, and it was like a projection into my future. They looked great, they were healthy, they made a decent salary. That's what I want. I would just talk with them. So I think it's important to engage with people so that you can navigate that part of your identity. If there was one thing I could have done differently, like in high school, it would be to talk to people more, because I didn't do that enough.
Let's tie it all together now.
Yeah.
So, let's put you on the podium.
Oh?
If there was one thing that you could do to inspire at least one change in Bankstown to improve cohesiveness, what would you do?
Oh my God. Okay. One thing that I could do within Bankstown, literally just erase like miscommunication and have everybody be able to speak every single language. That's what I would try and do. I think.
Do you think this is between generations too?
I think
between like Gen Z and.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that part.
Because I think there is miscommunication on those fronts.
There's definitely miscommunication between like the generations, and then between cultures. Like sometimes when I see like Viet people and they talk to each other, they sound like they're yelling at each other, but that's just how they talk. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Did I like my existence must have hurt you? But no, they're actually like they're happy to see you, right? They're like, hi,
that's
darling.
inflictions of the
yeah,
language,
like that kind of stuff. I think maybe not have everyone speak every language. That would be really cool though, if we could have everybody like learn every single
It's really good for the brain.
Really good for the oh my god, so good for the brain. You have such a wrinkly brain from learning all those languages. Oh my god. But I think I would try and eradicate miscommunication in any like way, shape or form, whether it's because no one understands the tone of how someone's speaking, or like a joke someone made. Also like body language, because if we're talking about all language, I'm going to take advantage of this. All languages, body language, physical, like all that kind of stuff. Like I think a lot of the problems just come down to us not understanding each other enough. I really wish I had learned more of the local languages in the area, but I did wish I learned like Vietnamese or maybe like Mandarin or Cantonese or a different dialect of Arabic, because that would have been fantastic for me to engage with other people in the community.
Something more embraced in Canterbury-Bankstown.
Yeah, I feel like I like low-key, because sometimes I get jealous of like seeing all the Viet people having coffee and smoking cigarettes, because I'm like, I want to do that. I want to hang out with the Viet uncles, but I don't understand what they're saying. I wish I could. Maybe I need to take a Viet class after this. I think this is my sign. But yeah, I think eradicate most forms of miscommunication is definitely what I would do to try and increase the cohesion of Bankstown.
Thank you very much for your time. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a joy. Talking for like an hour straight. My bread and butter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me, guys. Take care.
To check out more episodes of Voices of CBCity, more information, or our disclaimers, check out our website, cb.city/Voices of CBCity. The Voices of CBCity podcast is hosted by James Brown and Anna Sotoma, produced by Renee Trainer and edited by the City of Canterbury-Bankstown. This project is funded by the New South Wales Government through the New South Wales Social Cohesion Grants for Local Government and led by the City of Canterbury-Bankstown. To finish off Voices of CBCity today, we'll be featuring a different kind of voice of CBCity, students in the CBCity Talent Advancement Program. The Talent Advancement Program identifies, nurtures and promotes young vocalists from within our local schools. The program has run in CBCity for over 20 years. Students in the program take part in a series of workshops where experienced coaches and mentors help them develop and strengthen their stage abilities, performance, and vocal techniques. The program also provides the opportunity for vocalists to perform at a range of festivals and events, giving them the much-needed confidence to advance in the world of performing arts. Please enjoy Go the Distance by Jamie Chidiac.
He's doing a song called Go the Distance. Can you give a big round of applause, ladies and gents, to Jamie Chidiac.
I have often dreamed of a far-off place where a hero's welcome would be waiting for me, where the crowds will cheer when they see my face, and the voice keeps saying, this is where I'm meant to be. I'll be there someday. I will go the distance and I will find my way. If I can be strong, I know every mile will be worth my while. When I go the distance, I'll be right where I belong. Down an unknown road to embrace my fate. Through that road may wander, it will lead me to you, and 1,000
Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Chidiac. Wow.